Hi, I'm David, and this is Radio Pub. Halloween is just around the corner, and we decided to celebrate it by talking about iconic and spooky music that makes us feel the Halloween vibe. In this episode, we will talk about the music that revolutionized horror movies once and forever. If something out there unsettles you, makes your skin crawl, or convinces you to sleep with the lights on, there is almost certainly a movie that taps into it. However, the visual aspect is not the only thing that makes you get scared. It is also the sound effects and the music that guide the viewer and sometimes scare the heck out of us. Horror movies most often use situational sound effects and scary music that express fear, suspense, and sometimes even terror. Try to imagine your favorite scary movies without their soundtracks, or even some joyful music, and think whether they will still have the same effect on you. Most probably not. I have a few great examples for you.
I just came to say hello.
Isn't it funny? If we want to understand the influence of scary music on the movies and horror genre itself, we will need to start from the beginning. The horror genre has existed since the beginning of cinema, even during the silent film era, but that all changed when sound was introduced to movies. And the first horror movie that had a soundtrack was 1922's Nosferatu. This was a revolution for horror movies. In the beginning, horror movies had to repurpose existing pieces of classical music to get that desired effect. But in 1933, King Kong changed the game. Max Steiner composed the soundtrack with the help of a 46-piece orchestra in just 6 weeks. This movie was also notable as it was the first ever movie that has been recorded on 3 separate tracks: music, sound effects, and dialogue. Another shake for horror movies was in 1960s, all because of the master of suspense Alfred Hitchcock and his iconic Psycho. Psycho was a phenomenon. Despite Hitchcock's early intention to use jazz music in the movie, Bernard Herrmann, Psycho's composer, created an immortal score containing only string instruments. And all because of the tight budget. They simply did not have money to hire a large orchestra. Hitchcock himself stated that 33% of the effect of Psycho was due to the music, and Psycho's strings are probably one of the most recognizable sound in horror movies. In 1974, Steven Spielberg released Jaws, which featured an epic score by composer John Williams. The now classic soundtrack earned Williams an Academy Award, even though it was a rather simple theme focused around just 2 notes, 2 very unsettling notes. In June 1976, 20th Century Fox released The Omen, directed by Richard Donner and written by David Seltzer. The movie was a massive commercial success and spawned an entire franchise. The score of The Omen, written by Jerry Goldsmith, earned an Academy Award for the Best Original Score. The late 70s and early 80s are considered the golden era of horror movies. What's interesting is that during this period, the budgets for horror movies were pretty small most of the time, forcing composers to experiment with synthesizers and electronic music instead of orchestras and classical music. A great example is 1978's Halloween by John Carpenter. He only had $300,000 to make the movie, so there was no budget for a composer. As a result, he made the entire score himself in just 3 days on his synthesizer. The Halloween theme has since become one of the most iconic film soundtracks of all time. Carpenter even released a revamped version of the 2018 installment. Other notable versions include the 1980s The Shining's theme by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind, 1981's The Evil Dead's main theme by Joseph Loduca, 1982's The Thing's main theme by Ennio Morricone, and many more. However, Halloween is not only about being scary, there are also a ton of great soundtracks with a little less suspense in them. A great example is the latest Hocus Pocus 2. One of my favorite Halloween/Christmas movies, The Night Before Christmas, and it's This Is Halloween.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, pumpkins scream in the air.
As well as the song from a childhood of several generations, The Addams Family.
Gonna pay a call on the Addams Family.
Let's not forget about one of the most popular songs that has some spookiness in it and answers the question, who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters!
If it's something weird.
The iconic theme song for the 1984 film Ghostbusters was written and performed by Detroit artist Ray Parker Jr. and has undoubtedly become his biggest hit.
Don't look good. Who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters!
2 months after the release of the movie in August 1984, the song reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It stayed at the top of the charts for 3 weeks. The song was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Song from a Movie. However, it lost to I Just Called to Say I Love You by Stevie Wonder.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Modern film scores are taking advantage of new technological innovations, which has pushed great tension and engagement to new heights. Composers and directors now tend to focus more on sound design and sound effects to create the right atmosphere. But the future looks bright or dark if we are going to stick to the theme here. As with all the new movies and remakes, the composers and directors have the opportunity to create something new, something better that will stay with the generations to come. This was all for this time. If you like this episode, you can also check our previous episode about Yesterday by the Beatles or Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. Don't forget to like the video, it will help the channel to grow, and let the music inspire you the most. See you next time.